I'm Tamara Thomas, editor-in-chief of UrbanHealthToday.com, part of the DocWire family of medical news sites, and I want to thank you for tuning in to Urban Health Weekly. Our goal each week is to keep you informed of the latest in health and medical news right from today's headlines. It's time to empower yourself with open conversations about your medical care with news that matters to you. So are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, I'm Tamara Thomas, and welcome to Urban Health Weekly, where we talk about medical news and health topics that matter to you. So I'm here with Jackie and Lou. How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
I'm good. How about you, Lou?
I'm doing great.
All right, we have a lot to cover today, so let's jump in. CDC warns that a brand of eye drops may be linked to drug-resistant bacterial infections. Oh my goodness.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Yeah, one person has already died and at least 3 other people have permanent vision loss because of a bacterial infection possibly linked to a brand of over-the-counter eye drops. I think the eye drops are called preservative-free Ezricare artificial tears.
Oh, okay. I just checked to make sure that that's not what I'm using. Okay.
I did too. I went and checked to make sure that my artificial tears were not. Actually, mine were like re-wetting drops because, you know, I'm always staring at a computer screen. Okay. So CDC urged customers to stop using Ezricare artificial tears while it investigates the outbreak. The makers of the eye drop recalled them because of possible contamination. Oh, my goodness. So far, the CDC has identified at least 55 people in 12 states with Pseudomonas aeruginosa, a type of bacterium resistant to most antibiotics. Cases have been reported in California, Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Nevada, Texas, Utah, Washington, and Wisconsin. Dang.
Yeah.
Dang.
So it's that particular brand. Will there be other brand? You know how like sometimes they have like one brand makes a whole bunch
They
of
may
brands?
find out that Ezricare has other issues, but doesn't it just feels like every other week there's like some contamination, whether it's drugs. What is going on with our supply chains? What in the Sam Hill? Just a few weeks ago, you had to avoid cold cuts. They said don't buy any cold cuts from any your delis or any deli counters because they had some issue going on with the cold cuts. I don't know if that was ever resolved, but it just feels like the baby food shortage because of contamination. There's always something nowadays. What in the Sam Hill is going on?
Are we low on inspectors?
It just allows.
I don't know. That's a good point.
I think. I don't know.
What do you mean allows you to get contaminated? What does that mean?
Have the bacteria in it?
The bacteria, the Pseudomonas. You know what's funny about this Pseudomonas aeruginosa? My dog.
What?
Had my little dog. He had surgery in December for his knee. Did I tell you about this? Yeah, he had surgery in December because his basically the equivalent of his ACL popped. And unfortunately, the device that they used to the suture to put his knee back together, for some reason it was sticking out of the surgical wound. And then the crimp that was holding it together migrated out onto the outside of his knee. And so when they tested it, because they just removed it this past weekend, because he was still lame, he still had lameness in the leg after the surgery. He hadn't had any improvement. They tested it and they found out that it was Pseudomonas aeruginosa.
Wow. So it's almost like MRSA years ago was all over the place. So it's drug resistant? Is that it?
It's drug resistant. You have to take a particular, so the original, what they were giving him for it was not working. When they found out, they had to give him something different. I mean, it is it's not anaerobic, thank God, but it's a pretty resistant bacteria. Well, it says it's resistant to most antibiotics. So it's so funny that it's the same thing in the drops. So what they did was they tested, it's not inside his knee. What they did was they tested the crimp that was sticking out of his knee. And that part, the external part of the appliance tested.
Oh, weird.
Well,
wow.
If you're using Ezricare or if you have it in your medicine cabinet, people, please throw it out. Just avoid the brand for the time being. Florida may force high school athletes to disclose their menstrual history. I read this and honestly,
Unbelievable.
I couldn't believe my eyes when I read this. I had to read it again.
What's the point, though? I mean, as a guy, why do they need to know?
Well, let's listen. Many critics say a new draft physical evaluation form by the Florida High School Athletics Association, or FHSAA, which makes the menstruation questions mandatory as part of the state's attempt to roll back transgender rights. They argue that school districts should not have the right to access and store such personal information as a condition of competing in high school sports. The menstrual history questions have been part of Florida's athletics pre-participation form for more than 20 years. 20 years! But they have previously been optional. Now, many argue that it's time to remove them altogether. So they ask questions like, have you had a menstrual period? If yes, you have to answer the following. How old were you when you had your first menstrual period? When was your most recent menstrual period? And how many periods have you had in the past 12 months? First of all, how many young people really keep track of that information? Not many, right?
So
second of all,
they were asking the students that.
We're asking the students to divulge this information. Second of all, put aside the exclusion of trans young ladies. What about cis young ladies who have lost their uterus or were born without one for some reason or another? Because that does happen sometimes.
Right.
You mean to tell me because they don't have a menstrual history that they can't compete? Really? So basically what you're doing is, you're throwing out the baby with the bathwater because you want to exclude this group so badly that you would, and then
the key is it was optional before for them to answer, and
but
now they want to make it
existed to begin with. Why?
No, the only thing I could think of is originally that could flag like for example, I didn't get my period when I was a kid till way late. So and maybe that could be an indication. Oh, well, maybe there's, but there's no reason. I tell my doctor that. How does a school need to know? Under no circumstances. What does this have to do with me playing sports or not playing sports?
That's what I'm saying. And also with all of these states coming up with heartbeat laws and basically outlawing Roe v. Wade, how do we know that they're not tracking young ladies to identify whether they're involved in sexual activity, etc.?
This is just a breach of
this feels very Handmaid's Tale.
It's so Handmaid's Tale.
Very Handmaid's Tale to me.
Yeah.
It's just
like so by any means necessary to exclude and to fall. I mean, this is ridiculous.
I'm willing to bet that boys had to reveal how often they ejaculated or something.
Oh yeah, how about that? How about every time you pop a boner, I would like to know. And I'm in school,
you have a nocturnal ejaculation. How many nocturnal ejaculations have you had? If there was some crazy thing like that, parents would be up in arms, but it just feels like it's okay for something like this to exist.
Right.
I can't believe it's existed 20 years.
You ladies are really taking this a little too far.
I don't think we're taking it too personally. You're going to tell us
it has no bearing. It has no bearing on my it has no bearing on my performance as an athlete.
Yeah, well, time out.
They don't need to know my personal history like
that. When you compete as a male, and you're competing in serious athletics, which is, the high school kids get enormous offers from colleges, money-based offers from colleges.
This is entry level, though. This is entry level. This is not you've been doing it for 4 or 5 years, and now all of a sudden.
But there is a pot of gold at the rainbow, and then there's multiple pots of gold.
I'm listening. I'm dying to hear this.
On the male side, at some point, they're going to start drug testing.
That's equal opportunity. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
See, you don't have a problem with that.
With drug testing, no, I don't, because that's equal opportunity.
There's drug testing, and by drug testing, I also mean steroids. I mean quite a few things.
All right, so what does this have to do with menstruation?
What does that have to do with menstruation?
Well, we'll get there. All
right.
We'll get there.
We got our pitchforks ready.
Because
we got our pitchforks ready. You better.
Because it's become socially socially bad. Let's call it socially bad to ask somebody, you trans or something like that. They're trying to beat around the bush to get it. So what they're doing is, first of all, if you're on some of the performance drugs, the women lose their ability to menstruate.
That's true.
Symptom number one.
Right, that's
So
true.
rather than test for the steroid in the body, what they're doing is they're taking it and saying you have
Roundabout.
right. It's a roundabout way.
But what's the male equivalent of that?
What the male equivalent?
Yeah, what if they're asking about menstruation? What are they asking boys?
There is no male equivalent because they just give you the damn test and you're used to it. You got to pee in a cup.
But
Well,
we
why
have to
can't
pee in
girls pee in a
cups.
cup?
How is
Well,
that
they're not
different? I don't
asking
know
you
what
to
you
pee in a
mean by pee. Like, what are they testing for? What, for illicit drug use? How is that different?
So they test for testosterone. They test for a lot
In
of things.
school, in order to participate in athletics?
In college. It starts happening in college.
We're talking about high
High
school.
school.
I know we're talking about high school.
Okay,
But
so
the money is there now. The kids are getting $8 million offers to join this college and that college.
But the girls aren't getting $8 million offers. What does
Girls
this
are
have to
getting
do with
$8 million.
menstruation?
Yeah,
you're also talking about established athletes. We're not talking about established. This is
Talking
just
about
to participate.
participating in the state of
This is-
Florida
this
and
is a-
even
this is a
any
hurdle you
athlete.
have to clear.
It gets your
This
girl.
is a hurdle you have to clear before you
Okay.
can even participate.
If your
This is
daughter-
not the same
okay.
thing as being an elite athlete on the high school, the senior high school level that you've already been active and you're being recruited. This is not the same thing.
Yeah.
This is if you want to play, if you want to participate in female intramural activities, these are the questions. This is what we need to know.
Okay.
And what we're saying is, why do they need to know this?
Okay, if your daughter is a great lacrosse player in high school, I'm gonna ask you a question. And she's
Again,
in line. I'm asking you a question.
we're
I
not
can't even
talking
ask a
about
question.
no, because I
Ask
want you to
question.
stick to because
I
you're
am
what you're
sticking to
This
No.
is in order to participate in
Yeah,
lacrosse.
this is participate, which means I'm a freshman coming
Okay.
in.
If
You know,
your
I
daughter-
might have played,
This
I might have
starts-
competitively in junior high school, or maybe I had an after school club or something like that. And now I'm in
You know,
high school.
acceptance into these programs happens before your senior year. So, and you know it, it's just
Yes,
like
but
college.
you keep talking about
This isn't about my
which is at
kid.
the
What,
senior level.
But
when
This
my
is not
kid's
what
a
we're talking
freshman,
about.
just hear me out.
I'm trying to
You
get
guys
you to
gotta hear
stick
me out.
because I'm trying to
I
get you
am
to stick
sticking
to.
the subject.
No, you're not
I am
sticking to
sticking
the
to the subject.
subject. You are
I'm gonna
going
ask a
into.
question. I'm
Go
gonna
ahead and ask the question. I'm gonna stop you again if you don't stick to
No,
the
don't
subject.
stop me.
If you
stop
don't
me.
stick to the
I'll
subject,
quit. I'll come in. I'll
just stick to the subject
like
and go ahead and make your
do an
point.
injunction. If you have a daughter that's a great lacrosse player, she might be in line for a scholarship to the University of Maryland or
Jesus
something like
Christ.
that. Yes,
That's
that
not what.
scholarship is worth tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, do you think it's fair that somebody that's taking performance enhancing drugs?
Oh, you know what? Before you get us in trouble, I'm gonna stop this thread that you're going down
No,
right
I'm
now.
just
those two
saying
things
that-
are not related. This is
Exactly.
about whether or not you menstruate.
That's what they're trying to get to. I'm not talking.
You're
about
not
that.
understanding the larger. No, I understand.
They're
I
trying to
understand what
get
you're
that
saying.
question.
But
They're
what
trying
I'm
to find
saying
out.
is, and what I think Jackie is also saying is that in their attempt to try to exclude certain groups, they are also violating a young girl's rights. So right from the beginning, you're taught as a female that your
personal information is
violable.
available for everybody.
right.
That you get to ask that question.
violable, and that's okay.
That is really apples and oranges right there. Those two things are not related.
That's apples and bananas.
If
'Cause
they
you're
wanna
talking
get to it-
bananas.
If they want to get to it, then they should just ask the question. You know,
Well, but then if they ask the question, look, we know what they're trying to do.
It's sneaky. They're trying to sneak this in.
But there's a larger issue at play here than just trying to exclude transgender female.
It's also information that's none of their business
Thank you.
and is the business of a woman and her doctor, not the school district, and there's no male equivalent of it on the questionnaire. I would like to know what they're asking to boys.
That's-
It's a false equivalency.
Thank you. And also the fact that they may be ensnaring and excluding cisgendered females for very, personal
For all
reasons.
kinds of
we have to
reasons.
talk about.
Yeah,
You know,
none of those reasons
want
are
to-
make you fit or unfit to play
if
sports.
I'm a 14-year-old girl and I find out I can never have children, do I want to be reminded? Do I want to tell the school, you know,
Oh, I can't play sports. Sports
I
don't
can't
mean
play-
anything
well,
to me.
I can't play sports. Well, why can't you play sports? Well, I don't have a menstrual history. Why don't you have a menstrual history? Well, because I don't have a uterus. Well, why don't you have it? It's not their business. It's not their business.
And it's not relevant to playing sports.
It has no bearing on their ability to play sports. That's what I'm saying. We all know what they're trying to do.
They're
But what I'm
coming
saying-
roundabout, trying to do some bogus thing, trying to establish something. Yeah.
It's like, okay, we go to the airport. We know we all have to take our shoes off. We do it because we understand it's like, maybe that's not a good example, but it's the best example I could think of at the time. Do we then all feel that we need to be pulled over and rectally examined for bombs? Like, come on.
The slippery slope that ends
That's
with a
what I'm
rectal
saying,
exam.
Yeah, it's like, enough. Okay, so you're going to get every once in a while, you're going to get a trans athlete. So what? And I understand that, yes, lots of money. And there's this Olympian, I forget her name. Remember we talked about the Olympian who just happens, she's a cis female. She just happens to have lots of testosterone.
Oh yeah, she has that.
They made this woman go through time and time again.
Oh yeah, she really suffered. That was the South African
She
athlete.
said, look, if you want to see my badge, I'll show you my badge, but like enough is enough already. Like that's what the point she's gotten to, because they're so concerned with, are you trans female, that they're violating women's rights left and right. And I don't know of any male equivalent to that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
I'm not.
Take separate tests for performance enhancing drugs.
That
has
give
nothing to do
everyone
with
the
my
test
period.
across the board. Now, on the elite level, as these young people get older and you start separating the wheat from the
They're
chaff,
not. This wasn't even an elite athlete question, was it? It's just
it wasn't.
starting everything.
It's just entry, exactly. Now, to your point, Lou, that you were making about, as these students start getting more competitive, and as I was saying, separating the wheat from the chaff, and you start getting into these more elite, levels and college applications and all that, then yes, I can see what you're saying.
Well, by
But are you
sophomore or junior
by
year,
14?
you're being scouted.
Are you
but
telling me my
some of us played sports.
But your 15-year-olds being scouted already, if they don't know that. If they can throw a fastball or kick a ball or do something,
she even got in? Because she first has to tell them, because she first has to reveal, what her periods are like, when her first period is, and how long, how many I mean, come on.
they want, they want to get to some information. They should just ask the damn question. That's the way I feel. Just ask the question.
Fair enough. But they know they can't ask that question because they know they get
it's
sued.
idiotic. So then they
Because
do
they
some
get
other
sued.
idiotic thing to get the answer. So it's like, who's the bigger idiot?
Yeah.
So at the
I'm
end
just
of
really
the day-
It's really signaling out women and not men, and it's not
Yeah.
achieving anything.
Yeah. I just
Well,
think in
men
this age
have
of
to
Roe
go
v.
through a lot
Wade
of
and
tests too,
transgender
so
rights,
don't.
don't try to.
Yeah. I don't. It was
try to
apples and
create that
oranges.
false equivalency, please.
Why not?
Because it's false. They're not asking young boys to reveal how often they ejaculate or
They're
some
asked to
crazy stuff
pee in a
like
cup.
that. They are asked to pee in a cup when they get to a certain level, but they
So
can
girls have to pee in
That's
cups too. That
they
has
both
nothing to
put
do
pee
with
in-
that.
They both pee in cups, so that's not the same thing. It's not the same thing at
It's
all.
not even close, actually. What does that have to do? Yeah.
Tell me what the male equivalent to asking
they
somebody
watch you
about.
pee in the cup.
Tell me what the male equivalent is to asking about a female's menstrual cycle just to play sports. Tell me what that equivalency would be.
There isn't, because men don't.
Okay,
have-
thank you. That's the point.
Men don't have periods.
That's the point. But that's the
Okay,
point.
That is the point.
That no,
No, it's not. It means it's
Women
none
don't
of
have
it's
periods.
nobody's business.
Okay, so
it's not anyone's business. It's just really
And that's
ridiculously
the point. I think
outrageous.
I made my point.
No, you haven't
Yes, I
actually.
did.
You know what? We're just gonna move on because we're just gonna go
Yeah,
around.
yeah, no, there was no point
He,
made.
he understands what we're saying,
No,
and he's just trying to make his
I
head
think
hard.
The world understands me.
No, the world does not.
No,
The world does not understand you because you have not made a case. Sorry. Okay.
it's interesting because you so frequently make really good cases, but this wasn't one of them.
Oh, we have to talk about 45-year-old Bryan Johnson, who spends $2 million a year to be 18.
Oh
Have
my
you heard
God,
about
the
Billionaire Bryan
video.
Johnson?
Oh, that was so interesting. I watched that video. All I know is that's what I plan on doing. If I ever hit the Powerball, I'm going to be like,
Okay,
just
so
like
real
that guy.
talk. All right, so real talk. Do you think that how old do you think he looks? If you never knew a thing
Well,
about him,
his facial skin looked good. I wish I'd seen him before because he, his
no,
skin
just
he
prima
looked
facie,
young.
just prima facie. Like if you saw
He
him,
looked early 40s, late 30s to me.
aha, okay.
The face
Oh.
looked young because the face was puffy, but the body was lean. So he looked, I know he had filler to his face, or fat transfer or whatever.
Well, okay, so
No.
his heart is like a 37-year-old. His skin is comparable to a 28-year-old. I don't know about that.
All right.
And his lung and fitness levels are like an 18-year-old, which that's really good. A special device also measures his nighttime erections, and the numbers are comparable to that of a teenager. I would think that's the gold standard. He has a team of 30 doctors, and he intends to spend his $2 million a year until everything is like an 18-year-old on his body. First of all,
If you're really rich, you want to live forever. That's just how it is. Because life's good. Like,
yeah. Well, this is his hobby, and he can afford to feed his hobby.
and you really see the kind of perfectionist tendencies in him when you watch that video. Like, this is clearly just how he is anyway. Like, he's interested in like systems and data. Like, this really suits him very well.
Well, he looks really good, but I think it's a stretch to say his skin is like
that food looks pretty boring, though, man.
I think he looks like a weirdo.
He doesn't look okay. All right, look. Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't have that. You know how young people, they have this sort of like, you can look at them. They've got this structural thing going on under their skin that's like, you can see like this layer. You got this layer. He does not look inhuman. Would you stop?
Oh, that's interesting. I kind of go with Lou on that. He looked a little bit inhuman, but I don't know if that's the process that's going on, or maybe he's.
And one of us is an alien. He's the first one I'm looking at. You know.
Oh my!
But I don't know if he had like. I don't know if he had like. He didn't have like.
He doesn't have that structural layer of fat underneath that you can tell a young person right away. You like, if you look at pictures of celebrities like 20 years
He
ago,
looked like a very well kept.
He looks like a very well preserved 40. That's what he looks like.
Yeah.
It's like this. It's like when you say, well, that's a good.
Yeah. He doesn't look like a 28-year-old. No,
that's a bit of a stretch. He does. Somehow he looks feminine. Do you get that?
I thought he looked like one of those.
He looks
an effeminate vampire is what he looks like.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting, but I don't know what. That's why I'm curious. What did he look like before? Like,
I don't know.
But was he always kind of effeminate looking?
He was overweight, and he had a lot of health problems prior when he was working on becoming a billionaire. Then he sold his company for I think 800 or 900.
Yeah, like I don't know how much of a natural athlete or what he looked. Like he might not have been like such a fit. Like such an inherently handsome person to begin with, so it's hard to know. Like, this might be a tremendous improvement. Like,
I wonder,
you said he was overweight.
Yes, he was overweight, and he had a lot of health problems. Like, he was basically breaking down, and so he's just using his money now to fund this research, to reverse all the damage he did to himself while he was building his empire. But
what do you think? What did you think of his workout? Did you notice that particular workout was so interesting? It was like really about attending like these small movements of the joints. It was really like
Tracy Anderson.
Yes. Yeah. So it gave the impression of like something that leads to longevity, as opposed to like, necessarily being fully cosmetic. You know, I could see it would look very sustainable, that workout, and really precise.
Yeah, I also I question, you know, like when you look at his body looks like someone who trains regularly, but
Yes.
like someone who's in their late 30s, early 40s. He
Yeah,
doesn't
because he only had 6% body fat. So that
which is
changes
pretty
things.
damn good.
Yeah,
And
but
and all the fat that they
yeah.
are pumping him, they're pumping it into his face.
Right, right. I was like, where are they getting the fat from to pump into his face? But okay. Right.
Yeah, and then most
But
of
low body fat like that affects your face regardless. I mean, you have to be really young. Like, you know, you got to have baby fat on your, like if you're
well,
18,
they're
6%.
filling his face regularly with
I'll be
fat.
dead
Right.
before him, but you guys tell me when he dies, because I want to know how long this guy lives.
Yeah. Because that the diet, like I could see it, it's like incredibly rigid and experiment. Like, it
Taking
wasn't.
the fun out of life, unless this is fun.
Yes, taking the
By the
fun
way,
out of life. There wasn't a lot of
also,
joie de
I'm
vivre.
curious. You know, how people say good black don't crack and all that other stuff. How, you
Oh,
know,
yeah, he's
people will come-
white. He's white too. Like,
I'm just
you know,
wondering, like when they say this 28-year-old skin, is that like is that a
it was
Caucasian
28-year-old white skin. Like that's not, you know, that guy looked
Yeah, because that's what I was wondering too. Like that.
no. He looked good for like a white guy. He looked good. And you know, he was not you know, a supermodel before. You can see that. So he's
Right.
probably looking very good for him.
And also, I thought it was interesting, Lou, that you said vampire. My thought was he looked like a winged fairy, like if he just had wings.
Oh yeah.
If he just had his
Yeah,
fingers,
that guy's not getting a lot of sunshine. He's not playing outdoors.
I know.
That's number
No,
one.
no fantasy,
Yeah.
fantasy fiction.
Yes, fantasy fiction. Oh, okay, because you guys
He
like
can-
that.
It's also because Lou is like a real athlete. Like you didn't get the impression this guy was ever like an
No.
athlete. So that's why you feel like he was at a desk all this time and he didn't really play outdoors, maybe didn't
He
throw a
doesn't look-
ball.
You
You know what I think about
isn't
male-
he gonna feel
male-
silly
when I
that
think
he
about-
spent all this money and all
No,
this time?
it's
and
because it's
that-
Well, I
probably-
could see if he can live
probably
and enjoy
interesting.
himself.
Never had the strawberry shortcake or whatever for dessert, you know, all the good.
He makes
Yeah,
sure he
like
gets
if he
fruit
could do
lots.
it every once in a while. See, now yeah, but you don't get the impression he does do that. That's
No,
where it
he's
looks a little
extremely
hard.
disciplined. But you know, Jennifer Lopez is extremely disciplined, and she does this. She makes sure she's in bed by 9 o'clock, you know, and she gets up early and she works out every day, even if she doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, that's also
There
about
is a certain
maintaining her.
discipline.
Yeah, she's
Right.
about perfecting and maintaining her exquisite beauty. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so,
There
you know,
wasn't
you
a
have
big
some people-
transformation going on at any point in time.
No, because it's really just preserving the beauty that she's always had. Exactly.
Right.
Because that's her money, right? Like,
Right.
but you know, more importantly, about this, you know, I do think that it's a worthy endeavor. I'm just not
I think
sure
so,
how
yeah.
if this is going to reach people below a certain income bracket.
No.
Like if you're a billionaire, yeah, you can probably do this. He
This
can
is
probably-
what you do when you're a billionaire. Like I said, if I hit the Powerball, I would like to be able to live a nice long time, to be able to enjoy it and help my family and friends enjoy it. You know,
Well,
that's
how much
I'd
of that
wanna do.
time would you spend doing all of that?
Well, it depends how big a Powerball I'm hitting, but I wouldn't be able to eat that kind of cuisine every day for the rest of my life. I would have to like occasionally have some, you know, joie de vivre and get together.
Right.
But I could, you know, maybe do something like that. Also, did you notice like he's clearly had assistants working for him for a long time. Like, did you see that guy was like no stress whatsoever? Like his morning,
Right. It's very easy when you don't have the external stresses that most
he
people
didn't have
like
any young children knocking at the door, dad, like,
Uh,
or mom. Like, there was none of that going on over there.
Yeah, there's none of that, and it's much
Yeah.
easier when you have the kind of
And
help.
somebody prepared all the food. Yeah, it really does come
It's
down to
very
money.
easy to do that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
food just shows up. You don't have to cook it yourself.
Yeah, you know, and it
Yeah,
shows up.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
You don't
That's why it's a money thing. Yeah.
And so, you know, this whole idea that this is attainable by anyone, I don't buy that. You know,
I'll use it.
It's attainable for fellow billionaires.
There's a saying that it's not the years in your life, but the life in your years.
Yes.
I think he's just missing out on a lot of stuff, a lot of good food, and you can have good food and still be healthy.
Yeah,
But
I think that guy doesn't seem to me like somebody who necessarily enjoys food that much. Like, I don't get the feeling this guy knows how to have a good time.
I think that this is his hobby, and this is what he wants to
Ah,
spend his time
he's
doing.
into
And
that. Yeah.
it's like bodybuilders, they eat a very
Oh, it's very
specific
strict
diet.
diet, and they don't necessarily enjoy food.
Right,
Like,
because it's all
yeah.
about that aesthetic. It's all about
Yeah, but this
maintaining
Yeah,
is-
that.
that was the
Right,
perfectionism I
right.
was seeing in this
Right, but
guy.
that's what I'm saying. That whole bodybuilder thing, that is a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle, period.
Right.
There's certain things
Right.
that they just won't put into their body, and there's certain things they just won't
But
do.
that extreme rigidity, that's
Yeah.
what I saw in this guy. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
there's a
It's
three-letter
a- it's
word
a-
that describes him, nut. And
That's
it
he's
is
a
fair.
man who worked for his money, and he's entitled to do whatever he
Right.
likes to do
But I
for
could
whatever
see that,
reason.
like, he's not the guy you want to go out to dinner with on a regular basis. He's not really
No,
fun.
no.
That guy's no
That-
fun at all. Like,
This
With
guy would
all the
not be.
Michelin restaurants
It's
out
funny
there.
that he's trying.
oh, that guy would take the fun out of a Michelin restaurant.
Yeah.
It's so funny that he's trying to make himself this desirable younger person, and
But
yet
he's never going on a
all of
date.
that's what I was getting ready to say. And with all of that, it sounds like he would be a very unenjoyable person unless you're into the same exact things that
Yeah,
he
you need the same goal and lifestyle. Yeah, I could see if you could achieve all that, but occasionally have like, once or twice a month a Michelin starred meal somewhere. That seems like, where your everyday lifestyle is more like this, and then you're really having a blast. But I don't get the feeling with this guy. Like, this is not this is 24/7, this guy.
No.
Yeah, it's. But I wish him luck, and I
Yeah.
can't wait to see what he turns out in the end.
These people by rule all die young, but we'll see.
You think so?
They all do. All these health nuts always die young. But for whatever.
Oh, that's a fun wager. Do we
Oh,
I
that's
think
not a
he's
very
gonna do
nice
okay.
wager.
That's not
No,
nice.
it's an ugly wager, but it's fun. Like,
I'm gonna live longer than you. Ha ha. Nah, I can't.
I'd be curious. I think this guy is gonna, because he gets everything that it said he gets a colonoscopy like regularly. Like,
How regularly?
I think it was every month. And he gets biopsied and everything. Like, that's money right there. Like, holy cow, you can see how rich this guy is. I think he's going to live, barring an accident, I think he's going to live a really long time.
Wow.
What do you guys think? Lou's not impressed. Lou doesn't think he's going to live that long necessarily.
Well, is this adding to his longevity, or is this lending to his look? If he's turned it back so that his organs are that youthful, already he's added many years to his life.
I think it's going to work. It just might not be very fun years, like Lou was saying. It's not like quality of life to his years necessarily, but maybe it's very fun for him.
I'm also curious why he's not satisfied with where he is now.
He's a perfectionist. That's what made him that he's that kind of guy. I think that's part of the way he's wired.
Well, like I said, I wish him lots of luck, and I'm curious to see where this
I'm curious too.
Because I can foresee some center that he's going to create where he's got this whole thing down pat, and for $1 million,
he's going to monetize this beautifully.
But he can only monetize it after he's dead, because that's the only.
That's what I was waiting for Lou to say. That's hilarious.
Well, it was Jack LaLanne that famously said the human body is designed to live past 100 years old. I
He
think he
lived a
said
damn
108.
long time.
Yeah.
Jack LaLanne lived for like
And he didn't do any of that stuff.
He just wore
He just-
tight suits and what?
Jack LaLanne. Yeah. He was a pretty, right from the get-go. I think he ate pretty clean. Didn't he eat clean back then?
Yeah, he was one of the first people to make a juicer. Yeah. So, hey, listen, like I said, I wish this guy lots of luck. I'm curious to see where he goes with this. And hey, if he can pull this off, then more power to him. I just think it's not a very fun way to live, but it is what but it's his hobby, and we should respect that, and that's the end of that. Study reveals how exercise turns back the clock in aging muscle. Speaking of turning back.
Speaking of which, yeah.
Doctors call physical exercise a polypill because it can prevent and treat many of the chronic diseases that are associated with aging. A new study of muscle fibers from mice and humans shows how exercise affects gene expression. The exercise-induced changes reprogram the epigenetic expression of the fibers to a more youthful state. The findings could provide leads for the development of drugs really to mimic these benefits of people who are unable to exercise. Just when I thought this was going in a good direction, they want to bottle exercise. Come on.
Bottling exercise.
I can't wrap my head around this stuff. What really? So instead of telling people to put on their backpacks and like go out for a nice brisk walk or hit the weights or do something, it's like, yeah, let's figure out how we can bottle this. Come on.
Well, who doesn't want exercise in a pill? You can do exercise and then also take the pill. That sounds good.
But this goes back to what I've always been saying. Look, if you look at life as like one of these little, it's like a table, right? You've got three feet on it. You've got exercise, you've got diet, and then you've got lifestyle. Lifestyle including sleep. If you don't do all three of these things, you can't do like one to excess and not do the others. You can't, like, you have to do all three of those things. Otherwise, you're not going to achieve the health. How many times have we been shocked by like, oh my God, he just looks so healthy and he's an athlete.
Yeah, those two things aren't necessarily related.
Oh my God, this person is so healthy. How did they end up with cancer? Because they're not applying the rule of three, which is diet, exercise, sleep. You have to do all three. If you don't do all three, then you're missing the boat. That's it. Then be prepared for what happens after that. Now, if they're talking about maybe paraplegics or people like that, I mean, what do you do?
Or there are some people who can't move. Yeah, anybody.
What do you do? How do you bottle that effect? I mean, how do what are they
certainly going to be money made if you can bottle that effect.
Well, but
it's interesting they mentioned it's the epigenetics. Maybe it's a matter of like hitting the switch on the epigenetics. Maybe.
Well, but this sounds like genetic tinkering. I don't know that there's any pill that can survive the acids of your stomach to get to the epigenetic level. I just don't see that.
We've been trying for centuries. I mean,
since Ponce de Leon.
Snake oil.
Since Ponce de Leon, go even further back than that, Ponce de Leon and the Fountain of Youth. We've been trying forever, and we haven't achieved.
Well, that other guy, the guy we talked about before, he's working on it.
Well, but it's costing him $2 million a year. So
but he doesn't mind. Yeah, that's.
And he can afford it. It's probably just interest on one of his accounts that's not really here nor there to him. And his return is going to be when he creates his wellness center.
Right, he'll monetize that.
That are going to be well attended by millionaires all over the world. So this is an investment that he's making now in yet another really fruitful business that he's going to have.
Did you ever see that commercial? I forget what it was for, but it had like this Russian oligarch, billionaire, and he's like sitting on like a gold colored throne. And he has some guy next to him, and the guy's wired. It's this huge muscular guy. And he's lifting massive weight, and there's like a wire connected from the guy lifting the weights, and it goes to the guy sitting on the chair's muscles. So he's like essentially paying some other guy to work out for him. Like, did you ever see that? I love that commercial. And it was just like, what are you going to do with your money? And you're like, that's what this is about. Everybody wants somebody else to exercise for you. That's what you want.
Oh my God. I just want more time to exercise. That's what I would like. And this is something we've kind of always known, right? That we've just kind of moved away from. And I think a lot of the reason we've moved away, because we're always looking for the magic bullet. And that's where we always get in trouble. We're the magic surgery, the magic, fat replacement to give me the desired waist to hip ratio, the fillers to give my face a more youthful appearance, instead of, tackling the basic stuff that really rewires the body for youth.
Well, people want instant gratification, and that other stuff is daily work.
And people don't want to do the work. People want the quick fix, and there is no free lunch when it comes to this.
I think that people that are, average age 25 years younger than us, uh, follow the fact that they take their youth for granted. It's only when you start feeling it ever way that you say,
When
"Oh
you
my
start
God."
falling apart, that's when you start getting like, oh no.
Oh, fall apart. See, I was nice here. I call it the other way.
Well, I
call
feel
it
like
the
I'm
other
falling
way.
apart.
As you get up and you get mystery pain.
But if you've always worked out your entire life, then you're already sort of ahead of the curve in terms of having that more youthful appearance, because you've always been kind of hitting those cylinders.
Yeah, but things happen. Sometimes
Never
you have an
worked out.
injury, sometimes something on a, I mean, yeah.
But the point is that you got to do something. They're calling sitting the new smoking for a reason, because we're doing a lot more sitting than previous generations have done. And
Yeah, that's true.
there just isn't any substitute for moving the body. The body needs movement, period.
Even that billionaire works out a lot.
Yep, daily. What, for an hour, right?
At
We're
least,
we're
he
still
really did a
talking
lot.
about him.
Yeah. Well, that's because, on some level, I would be doing that too. Yeah.
All right. When we take a break, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about what's going to happen if you don't exercise. And we're back, and we're going to talk about this week's topic, which is what happens when you don't exercise. Well, that's not the only reason. The epidemic of cancer among people under 50.
Oh.
Cancer striking more people in their 30s and 40s. During the last 3 years, the number one leading cause of death in the world was actually cancer, not COVID, says Dr. Arif Kamal, Chief Patient Officer for the American Cancer Society. Symptoms of cancer can mimic those of any other illness, so it can be difficult to tell them apart, experts say. Signs include unexplained weight loss or gain, swelling or lumps in the groin, neck, stomach, or underarms, and fever and night sweats. That's according to the National Cancer Institute. Bladder, bowel, skin, and neurological issues may be signs of cancer, such as changes in hearing and vision, seizures, headaches, and bleeding or bruising for no reason, the Institute said. But most cancers do not cause pain at first, so you can't really rely on that as a sign. We tell patients that if they have symptoms that do not get better after a few weeks, they should visit a doctor, Kamal said. It doesn't mean the diagnosis will be cancer, however. A surprising number of new diagnoses are in people under 50. Cases of breast, colon, esophagus, gallbladder, kidney, liver, pancreas, prostate, stomach, and thyroid cancers have been increasing in 50, 40, and even 30-year-olds since the 1990s. Smoking, alcohol consumption, air pollution, obesity, a lack of physical activity, and a diet with few fruits and vegetables are key risk factors for cancer. That's according to the World Health Organization. Add those up, and you've got a potential culprit for the advent of early cancers, the Harvard researchers said. So how do you fight back against the big C? Start in your 20s. They say get a family history. Many of the most common cancers, including breast, bowel, stomach, and prostate, are genetically based, meaning that if a close relative has been diagnosed, you may have inherited a predisposition to develop that cancer too. That's why it's critical to know your family's health history. Kamal suggests young people sit down with their grandparents and other close relatives and ask them about their illnesses, and then write it down. The average person doesn't actually know the level of granularity that is helpful in assessing risk. The article gets into more detail, but we're not going to cover it here. I just encourage everyone to read the article. It's from CNN. Thoughts?
Okay. It's quite a bummer that it's people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. That's pretty scary. And it seems to be the trend we're hearing about needing colonoscopies earlier, everything you were talking about.
Here is my concern with this. I think it's all well and good that this doctor is saying get your health history and all of that in your 20s. And that's good. That's empowering and all of that. But what do you do when you get to the doctor's office and you say, hey, look, I've got this pain. We've talked about this over and over. Doctors have been so dismissive and have been gaslighting patients, particularly women, and telling them, no, there's nothing wrong with you. Okay, so then is he suggesting then that if you go in with this information and you have your family history, that the insurance is going to take the doctor's claim more seriously and that they're going to send you for that scan?
I don't know. What do you think's going to happen? Do you think that's the case?
I think what happens is, no, I think what's going to happen is that this needs to change from the federal level down. The
Yes.
USPSTS, don't ask me what
I was going to say, look at you bust that out.
I know it took me a long time to finally get that one, but anyway,
Well, she gets
they
the
need
show
to-
and we're just, yes.
That's right. That's right. Separating the wheat from the chaff.
there you go, using my term. Anyway, they need to adopt these changes and say, because that's who the insurance and that's who the doctors and the American Medical Association take their marching orders from. If they say that this can be, then this is what they're going to follow, and they're going to start to pay for these things. USPSTF said we're going to lower the screening age for colorectal cancer from 45 to 40. Now now insurance pays for you, no questions asked, when you're 40, or if you have a genetic predisposition, even younger sometimes. But the point is that it's not enough for people to have this information. By the time you get to the doctor and do the screening and all that, sometimes it's too late. Yeah, it's helpful if you have a problem, but you first have to get screened, and you first have to get past your general practitioner, who will look at you and say, well, you look good to me, or you needed to lose that weight anyway, so you look great. And oh, it's probably just hysterical. Oh, you're probably just hypochondriac. Oh, it's nothing to worry about. It's probably just that time of the month, or some other excuse that anything but listening to you, right? That's the problem. The problem is you could be as armed with as much information as you want, but if you walk in there in your 20s and you have a problem, you don't get caught early, because these doctors send you away because they say, no, this person is too young. So what needs to happen needs to be from the federal down to the institution, and then they can meet the people where they're at.
Correct.
Am I in this alone? Or?
No, I'm with you. Absolutely. Having been somebody where I didn't meet the age criteria, I didn't get flagged, even though
not only did you not meet the age criteria, and to his eye, you didn't look the part.
I didn't look it. Well, you weren't obese, like that was one of my things. Well,
yeah, like
I was overweight for me at the time, not my
exactly.
standards, right? I could tell that I gained weight, but okay, I didn't look it to his eye, right?
And that's the problem with this. I think this is very good information, and I think people should start arming themselves with this information. I just don't think it's enough. I think there need to be a meeting in between, between young people knowing this information and the clinicians responding to this information. Lou?
I agree with everything that's been said. The only thing is that getting all this diagnostic information and all this data is cool, but then what do you do with it? I mean, if you know that there's a predisposition, how are you being counseled to change your life?
That part too, because that's right.
Without that, it's kind of like that progressive whatever insurance commercial is. Oh, your house is on fire. Okay, but now what?
Oh, well, I can't actually put the fire out. I can just tell you it's on fire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I can tell you've got a predisposition for this, and okay, see you later. Here's my bill. I mean, where
yeah,
is
that's right. You're right, because there also needs to be the discussion of the food supply.
Plan of action.
Right.
Exactly.
That starts at a much younger age.
Well, you
diet pollutants. Yes. Well, fast food they keep saying highly processed food, and that's fine, but we've always been a nation of highly processed food, and we didn't nearly have the cancer that we have. It's how the food is being engineered now. That's a lot of the problem. And I don't know why no one wants to face this head on and just say it. Just say it. The food that we're eating now, well, I'm not eating it, but the food that we as a nation
processed
are eating now, it's beyond ultra processed. It is like Frankenfood. It's not even real food anymore. This stuff is grown in a lab to mimic the food that we used to have.
Yeah, it's like, bread just turned moldy after 3 or 4 days.
Mold won't even
And
touch the bread.
Now it's like nothing
Ah,
happened. And I want to know why. I mean, what's in there?
What's
Did
in there
did
that
we
even the mold?
eradicate mold, or
What's
Mold
in the
says,
bread that
no,
even mold
you
doesn't wanna
don't
eat?
resemble anything in nature.
No,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
It's really,
I can't live here.
yes, it's like, what is this? We can't eat this. Let's get out of here.
They call it humanely killed chickens, but all right, you humanely kill them, but what is it that you're feeding them? At the end of the day,
And how are you growing them? Yes.
a lot of these claims that people feel is healthy. Oh, our chickens are humanely killed and we walk them every day. Okay, but what kind of
Wait,
feed? What
time
kind of
out.
hormone?
Who walks chickens?
Well, free range. They can
Walk
go
around.
from.
And
Okay.
they have a chicken sauna.
I had an
and everything.
image of like a chicken sauna. I had an image of like chickens on being
Walk and everything. Well, whatever.
Like a
You know what I mean?
chicken.
Like when you read the label, it's like they tell you all the wonderful things that happen to these chickens. And okay, this is all great, and they were happy chickens and all of that. But
Were they
what,
really happy
what about
chickens?
the food that they were eating? I mean,
Yeah.
what about the food that they were
Yeah.
eating? And they were organically grown, whatever that means. But there's a lot that goes into that, and those claims may not always be 100% right.
Yeah, you have to be so careful. And then the other problem is you have to pay extra for unadulterated food, which some people just they don't understand that the food that they're opting for is cheaper because it's adulterated.
Right.
They don't see it, they look at it, they say, this looks the same to me, or why do I need organic? Well, no, I'm just going to take this regular one, not knowing that there's so much more going on bioengineering and all kinds of craziness that's going on with the food that is changing our gut on a molecular level. And that's why we're seeing so much of the cancer. Then we've got huge alcohol consumption.
Mhm.
I mean, I feel like it's much more glorification of alcohol consumption than previous generations.
Yeah,
It's like a pastime. Everything you watch on TV, someone's sucking down alcohol. So, and then what the alcohol industry has gone and done is made drinks sweeter to increase their market share. So now women can partake of alcohol because it's sweet.
Oh, they've made it more like appetizing to our palates.
Okay. Yes, they've made it more appetizing to female palates so that they can increase their market share. Absolutely. And so what you have now is you've got the food supply that's questionable. You've got increased alcohol use. You've got, well, there's smoking and then there's weed smoking, but I think to me, it's all the same.
It's all smoking. It's all, yeah. Yeah. I remember asking this girl once, and I was like, oh, do you smoke? And she's like, no. But it turns out she smokes weed. And I thought, you didn't think that was the same thing. You didn't think that like affects your lungs also. Like, I just thought that was so.
The human lungs are not designed to constantly be filled with smoke. You know?
Right. I meant like from a health perspective. I didn't mean like, was it nicotine cigarettes or like, it just still blew my mind.
And it's interesting that doctors are saying that they're finding more young people with non-smoking young people with cancer. But if you ask the average person, like you just did, if he or she smokes, they'll say no because they don't consider marijuana.
They consider snow. That blew my mind.
They don't
was like,
smoking,
yeah.
But it does produce smoke that goes into your lungs.
Or people who vape and like insist that vaping is healthier. No, it's not.
Vaping is far worse than smoking and marijuana. But the point is that we're seeing a lot of young people, and this is an epidemic that's not going to change until we address the root causes of this, and that is diet and lifestyle. And exercise. Let's not forget exercise, because there are some people who are super athletic, but then they go. Did you see that terrible commercial with the women who went running, and one friend was at the bottom of the driveway, and the other friend entices her with a bear?
Oh, yeah, that one pops up all the time. Yeah,
like, you gotta
yeah. But yeah, that's associating good times and sports with alcohol. That's the oldest.
That was pretty outrageous when I saw that commercial. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
You exercised and now
here's your reward. Has a beer after running. Who does that to their temple?
That was
I just can't with these advertisements.
sports and alcohol together. Yeah, that's been going on forever. That's like the oldest. Isn't that just about the oldest pairing in advertisements?
What, sports and alcohol?
Yeah.
Really? Except you're watching the sports, you're not really participating in the
Sports, alcohol, and pickup trucks.
I'm not going to touch that one. Anyway, go to Urban Health Weekly for the links to these articles. And remember, you only have one life and one body, people. So you got to do your best to make it count. So your years are full of life and full of health. Information equals transformation. I'm telling you, small steps each day and you'll see a difference. I'm sure of it. That's all the time we have this week. It was so wonderful to talk to you guys.
Fun as usual.
Mm-hmm. All right.
What's that? What'd you say, Jackie?
I said it was fun as usual.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Urban Health Weekly today. I hope you'll join me and my friends next week so you can stay informed and inspired to take control of your health. See you next time.